Good morning, and thank you for participating in this webinar hosted by USC Marshall Executive Education. My name is Paul Bridgman, and I'm with the Travis Group. I'm also a licensed business partner with Integrity Solutions and a USC MBA Marshall alum. So welcome. The title of today's webinar is Increasing Salesforce Engagement, Why Congruence and Process Discipline Matter. What we're going to be looking at today in this about 20-minute presentation, we'll leave about 5 or 10 minutes at the end for questions, are the engagement challenge, the performance drivers for creating customer value, congruence of attitudes, beliefs and values, and then process discipline and level 4 sales organizations. During the webinar, you'll have an opportunity to email in questions. On the bottom of each one of the slides is an email address. It's execed@marshall.usc.edu. Please email your questions in during the webinar, and then we'll field them at the end. So the engagement challenge. Research on employee commitment to organizational goals shows that only about 29% of employees are actively engaged. Maximizing the number of actively engaged salespeople is critical for successfully executing a growth strategy, establishing competitive advantage, and creating value for customers. And ideally, an organization should strive to have a sales team create more value than just the products and services that they represent. So I'd like to discuss creating value in the context of a model that has emerged from Integrity Solutions' 40 years of experience and observations from working with sales and service organizations. While there are many variables that impact an organization's ability to create value, we believe we've cut through the fog of complexity and determined these 4 key performance drivers have the greatest impact on an organization's effectiveness to create value. The 4 drivers are, from left to right, the right people, the right process, the right support, and the right commitment. So a little bit more about each of these. The right people. This is hiring the people with the right talents, the right skills, traits, cultural fit, and a commitment to create customer value. The right process. This is developing customer-centric business and development processes that help create value and build customer loyalty. The right support. This is about building a leadership team that walks the talk on customer value and also provides frontline coaching necessary. The right commitment. This is engaging people to commit in the customer needs focused behaviors that drive alignment and accountability. So successfully managing the first 3 drivers impacts commitment, which then contributes to engagement. Commitment is an indication of how aligned an employee is to the organization's mission, its visions, and its goals. When employees show up on purpose, customer value is enhanced. And bearing in mind the impact of these key drivers, let's think about this for a second, bearing the impact of these key drivers here that we've just discussed, when you think of your own sales team, which of them do you need to improve to have your team create more value? Okay. So a little bit more about commitment. Why might employees not be engaged? Well, employee misalignment is difficult to understand and change because the root cause of an employee's personal misalignment is as varied as human behavior. The underlying factors that impact a person's engagement have more to do with their attitudes, beliefs, and values than their actual skill level. So to better understand this, let's take a look at a concept called sales congruence. And the Congruence Model, which we'll get into in the next set of slides, provides insight into the dimensions that are most likely to cause internal conflict within a sales employee, and it can explain why they're not actively engaged. Congruence means to be in harmony or alignment, and the Congruence Model describes 5 key dimensions that help us understand the impact of attitudes, beliefs, and values on engagement. So when a salesperson is not in congruence, they are experiencing cognitive dissonance or misalignment. That's just a state of having inconsistent thoughts or beliefs. Okay? This creates internal conflict, which results in stress and anxiety, which undermines a person's ability to be at their best, and then this hinders engagement. Okay, so let's take a look at the congruence model and the 5 dimensions and how they impact congruence. The first dimension is view of selling, and this circle represents just that, an employee's view of selling. And what do they truly believe selling is? And everyone's got an internal view of selling that influences them in a different way. Do they understand selling as a noble profession that creates value for customers? And are they being accordingly rewarded for creating that value? Or are they a little embarrassed to tell people that they're in sales because they view it as doing something to someone versus doing something for someone? The next dimension, represented here, is view of abilities. Deep down inside, does the salesperson believe they have the skill set necessary, or do they believe they'll only be average? This has to do with a person's level of self-esteem and confidence. Are they comfortable communicating at different levels and to different types of people within an organization? Or are they inhibited to do so? Values. We all live our lives according to a certain set of values, internal behavior boundaries of what we believe is right and wrong. Values such as sincerity, honesty, and integrity greatly influence long-term sales success. The next dimension, commitment to activities. This is really an employee's willingness to consistently do the activities necessary to be successful, even the things they don't want to do. Belief in product. Belief in product means an employee has passionate belief in the products and services that they provide and that they create value. It not only means that they believe in their company, it means they believe in the extra value that they provide to customers as they deliver their product or service. Okay, so when these dimensions are not in congruence or there are gaps, and the arrows between the circles represent gaps, where the gaps occur, conflict is created. So conflict between these dimensions causes emotional discomfort, and where there is discomfort, employees have difficulty performing and being successful. An example of conflict between the dimensions might be when a salesperson is making required sales calls on a daily basis, but they don't believe in their product or service. Another might be when a salesperson has positive values, but perceives selling as being pushy and manipulative. How about when a salesperson has a product that is not perceived to be the best in the market, and they feel they need to reduce their price to close a deal? To become congruent, the salesperson will need to believe that their product provides more value to the customer than the actual cost of that product. Yet another example is when a salesperson feels compelled to sell as much as they can to meet a quota, regardless of what the customer needs. It's not uncommon for salespeople to get mixed messages from management. On one hand, they're told to be customer-focused, and on the other hand, when numbers are down, they're told to get out there and sell as much as they can and close business, no matter what. And this contradicts and compromises the salesperson's customer-focused values. These negative self-beliefs create psychological roadblocks that hinder engagement. Okay? So implementing a developmental process that will bring these dimensions into alignment will lead to increased engagement or congruence. And as congruence of these attitudes, beliefs, and values takes place, individual sales, confidence, and customer loyalty will improve. What we've found that when a salesperson is congruent, a higher level of achievement drive is released. And achievement drive is actually the number one precursor of sales success. Okay, on the executive education website is a congruence model worksheet, which you'll all be able to download either now as you're watching the webinar or after. But I would like you to take a look at that model after the webinar and think of it in this context. Based on what we just discussed across these dimensions in congruence, do any of your sales team have congruence challenges that are undermining their success? Going through the exercise, this exercise may help gain insight into those challenges. Okay, so after the webinar, using the scales and definitions provided on the worksheet, rate a low performer on your team, and you can do that with an X on the scale. Rate a high performer on your team, you can do that with a 0. And then take a look at the gaps or the differences between those two ratings. How might the ratings be addressed? How might you use this model to coach team members? You can also apply this model to your overall sales culture. Take a look at your sales culture and rank them across the congruence dimensions and see what you get. Is there area for improvement? We don't have a lot of time to debrief on the worksheet here during the webinar, but if you do have any questions on its application or want to discuss further your findings, please contact me after the webinar. I'll provide my contact information on one of the last slides. Okay, coming back to the key drivers again and talking about the right process. Developing the congruence that we just talked about can't be achieved by intellectual understanding alone. It must be accomplished experientially by implementing a customer-focused, needs-based sales process that helps bring these dimensions into alignment. A disciplined approach to developing the right attitudes and self-beliefs and engaging in customer-focused consultative sales behaviors will ultimately result in successful experiences, more importantly, positive customer feedback. Okay, the right support. As you implement this process, or a process, it's very important to keep in mind that it's necessary to hold not only sales professionals accountable to the process, but their managers. Not only accountable, but responsible for practicing and applying the knowledge, concepts, and principles that have been learned. So concurrent with implementing a sales process is a need for management support of the process. And this can't be understated enough, as is evidenced by some data that I'm going to share with you in a minute that's been conducted across global sales teams. This is where we talk a little bit about process discipline. And this chart is kind of loud, so sorry for that. But what it does, it shows you the difference in percent of quota achieved for the different types of firms as classified by the sales training that they implement. Okay, level 1 firms have no sales training and no sales process. Level 2 firms conduct event-based sales training and only encourage application of models and concepts. Level 3 firms conduct events-based sales training and expect people to apply and follow the process. And then level 4 firms conduct process-based sales training, have a formal sales process, expect salespeople to use it, and they also expect their managers to coach to it and drive accountability. Okay, so what this data shows us is that there's a significant drop in percent quota achieved between firms that have no formal sales training and those that do event-based training. It's going from 60% of quota achieved to 54% of quota achieved, a drop in 10% in percent quota achieved. And why is that the case? Well, this is most likely due to, again, what we call cognitive dissonance. And when a salesperson is introduced to knowledge and concepts that they don't believe they are capable of applying, anxiety results that hinders engagement. If they don't feel competent to act on information that has been provided to them at a training event, they'll feel less confident in trying out the new models and concepts when they return to the field after the training event. So the conclusion that we can draw from this data is that sales training and sales process has no material impact on improving sales effectiveness unless there's true accountability to ensure the knowledge is learned and practiced and applied, and there is steadfast adherence to a formal sales process. So competence, confidence, and commitment comes after doing something and getting a positive outcome. And I think to note here from this research also is that only 17% of organizations globally have achieved that level 4 status. So achieving level 4 status then can mean significant reach in terms of competitive advantage. Okay, in addition to overcoming the harmful effects of cognitive dissonance, the reason why discipline is important and why training events don't give breakthrough results in engagement is because of the forgetting curve. Okay, without reinforcement and application within 48 hours of a learning event, 75% of the information covered is forgotten. So research shows that without a formal process to hold people accountable to immediately apply and reinforce training material, retention falls at an accelerating rate. Consequently, there's little to no behavior change or improvement in engagement. Okay, to sum up what has been presented, increases in engagement are best achieved by reducing gaps in the congruence of salespeople's attitudes, beliefs, and values, and becoming a level 4 sales organization. That is, creating a culture of discipline by implementing a customer needs-focused sales methodology that salespeople and managers buy into and are held accountable to execute. That concludes the formal part of the process. Before we take questions, we'd just like to acknowledge Bill Kowalski. He's the Senior Vice President of Client Development and Consulting at Integrity Solutions. The material that we just ran through is based largely on the white papers that Bill has authored, and those white papers can be found on the Integrity Solutions website at integritysolutions.com. The references that were used during the presentation, these will be archived on the website, so if you would like to reference these further, please do so. And at this point in the presentation, we'll open the floor up to questions.
Okay, here's the first question that has come in. Once a firm attains level and status, is this sustainable?
It's a good question, and actually an offshoot of the research shows that once a firm achieves that level 4 status, that without reinforcement and coaching and the right support, you can actually revert to level 3 or level 2 status within a number of years. And when we typically see this when there's a management change. Senior level executives come in and want to do something new, try something different, and they change the process. End result is a reversion to level 2 or level 3 status.
The next question that's come in, and it's referring to the levels slide. Why are the percentages of quotas so low?
Yeah, it's interesting. The percent quotas, and again, talking from a sales perspective, sales quota or sales plan is typically set at a significant percentage above actual operating plan, and that's what we're seeing here. I guess the question that begs to be asked after that is, in general, are sales organizations setting their sales quota too high, with only 60% of the sales organization achieving that level? It means that 40% of their sales team is not achieving or performing to plan.
Okay, next question has come in. How can sales process information be relayed to a sales team without them falling victim to the forgetting curve?
Okay, so we see this all the time during event-based training. I think we've all been there as well. You come into an event, it's highly motivational, the speaker's dynamic, there's some great information, some good models and key concepts, and you're all excited to go out and apply the knowledge. But typically you'll leave the event, go back to your office, and within a day or two, you're falling back into your regular routine of conducting sales. So in order to sustain the momentum gained at the learning event, you really need to have application followed by accountability and follow-up. We see that there's a significant improvement in learning that occurs 4 to 6 weeks post-delivery of an initial training event. But that coincides with the concurrent development of training on a weekly basis to support the key concepts and models that were learned during the initial training event.
Okay, next question that's come in. You discussed commitment as being a major factor in engagement. Does work satisfaction also factor in?
Yeah, of course. And we didn't really talk much about work satisfaction here, but I think commitment and work satisfaction go hand in hand. Once the sales process is developed that allows congruence, this process is supported by management, and field sales personnel are held accountable for implementing the process in the field, and this sales process is customer needs focused. Salespeople begin to get positive feedback from the client, and in doing so, there's a cathartic release, and those salespeople now truly enjoy engaging the customer because selling is something they're doing for them, where previously it might have been doing something they're doing to them. So a big difference. So work satisfaction does come into play here, and I think it goes hand in hand with commitment. Okay. If there are no further questions, we'll conclude the session at this point. Please, again, refer to the website. You can find the material archive at the USC Marshall Executive Education website, and that's at www.marshall.usc.edu/exec-ed. And on that website, not only will you find previously archived webinars, you'll also find some information about fantastic courses that are offered here at USC Marshall through the Executive Education program. So I encourage you to take the time to take a look at that website. Thank you very much for your participation today, and go out and have a great day. Thank you.